Hello and welcome back. Now, this message is more as an encouragement because I keep hearing, I'm frustrated and I'm tired of trying to manifest. This is what I hear. Now, Neville says something very interesting. He says, be natural about these things. What does that mean? Well, for instance, Neville grew up in church, right? And read the Bible a lot. So for him, when he started teaching and learning from Abdullah, well, naturally for him, it was teaching the Bible, right? From a metaphysical point of view. Also, the fact that he was a dancer means he was very good at visualizing, because as dancers or athletes, you have to be able to perform the task in your mind's eye before you do it in 3D, right? Before you get on the stage and do it. Nikola Tesla also did that. He never built a prototype. He always built the real thing, because in his words, what he said was, I build it in my mind and I work out all the bugs. And when everything is done and it is perfect, I build it. And that's what he did. Now, Nikola Tesla came from a background. His mother was also an inventor. His brothers were inventors. And according to him, well, he was not the brightest one. And look at what he did in the world. And he wasn't the brightest out of his mother and his brothers. Well, then, if he was the idiot, I wouldn't want to see his mother. Well, how far would she have progressed us then in this world, right? But I digress. The reason why I say this is an encouragement. You notice how Neville has something in his life. Nikola has something in his life. You have something in your life. Well, what do you mean? Well, look at what happened between the ages of 0 to 7. Something happened. You were learning and taking in information. Here's my example. Before I knew how to read, I knew hymns. Why? Because my grandmother was a singer. My grandfather, now he was a deacon in the church and he told me Bible stories, right? So I learned how to remember information, how to recall information, how to find information, because when he would tell me scripture, he'd tell me where it was, right? And when I started leading worship, I already knew the hymns because I couldn't read yet, but I knew the hymns. So if you want to look at that, you could look at that and say, well, yeah, you were just indoctrinated into church and religion. Yes, perhaps. But look at what I learned. I learned how to read a congregation. I learned how to lead a congregation. I learned that where I went, they would follow if they trusted me. You see, I learned that. I learned how to recall and memorize information, like a Rolodex, if you will. I learned how to interact with people. I learned how to listen and how to understand people. Because not only that, my grandmother, oh God, that hot sun, let me tell you, in Barbados at noon. And when I went to town with my grandmother shopping, it didn't matter where we went. Miss Nurse! And she would stop and she would talk to them. Now here's my little feet killing me and I'm hot. But what did I learn in this situation? I learned that people need to be understood. That's all they want. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. That's what I learned. I also learned from my grandfather. My grandfather would stop anywhere. The last person I met at my grandfather's funeral said to me, he was walking by the bus stop and she was sitting there. And he just backpedaled and came back and sat next to her. And like the woman at the well, he told her everything about her life. Yeah. So in the last years of my grandfather's life, she was cooking for him because he couldn't see anymore. But I told you that to tell you, I learned how to understand people and how to listen and how to teach because I had to. So for me, this is natural. Now, maybe your life was not as ho-hum as mine. Maybe you had more excitement. I call it that because I don't want to say the other word. But what if you learned how to spot a liar? What if you learned how to read body language because your survival depended on it? Do you see what I'm saying? We all have skills that we have developed over the years. Perhaps you're a type A personality. You like charts and graphs, and you're a good leader of people, right? I told you that to say this. You see, when Neville says to you to be natural and to use your imagination, because your imagination is God, well, you have a personality. So when God shines through you, God uses your personality, your insights, your skills. That's what God uses to get the word out. That imagination creates reality. And that's how God gets things out to set people free, by using your gifts and your talents. And here's something. But Angela, I don't know what my gifts are. I don't know what my talents are. Where do I even begin to look for those things? Simple. You sit down and you simply say to yourself, what talent can I use in this current situation? That's all you have to do. Do you know why? What does the word tell you? Ask and you will receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. That's what the scripture says. And the reason why this came to me today is because when this person that I respect so much and I love dearly said to me, I am frustrated, it broke my heart, because I wanted this person to have every desire. That's what I wanted for them. And so when I was laying down and I said, well, what do I say? Because I don't know what their life is. I don't know what they're going through, right? What do I possibly say? And here's the scripture that came to mind. The scripture that came to mind was, not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. What does that mean? It means if you are wanting to manifest something, you have to remember that manifestation is cause and effect, right? Manifestation is going to happen because it follows law number 5, cause and effect. It does, right? We get that part. What gifts and talents do you have? The Bible also says a man's gifts make room for him and brings him before great men. When we become frustrated that we are not meeting our goal, we put a stumbling block in our own way. Because remember, cause and effect. If you look at this and say, well, I don't have any talents. I don't know what I'm good at. How is this supposed to be natural? How am I supposed to? That is a stumbling block. And the way to free yourself from it is to listen, you could look in the mirror into your own eyes. You can sit down, you can journal, but you must ask for the guidance. Because when that scripture tells you not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, it means you don't have to go out there and beat down doors, pound the pavement, and holler at people. You don't have to do that. You simply have to ask, what skill or talent can I use in this moment? That is what you ask. And when you ask that question, I promise you, you'll get the answer. Because then now what happens? You get the answer, and naturally you will do something that comes naturally to you. Like me, I talk. I talk a lot. You know this, and I know this. And so that's what I do. And I made I don't want to say a vow or a promise, but back in the day when I started having all these things I needed to say, that's what I said. I said, well, I don't have a church I go to. I don't have people I can share this with. And that's when the idea came. Record it. Because you talking anyway, so just record it and post it. And so that's what I did. You see what I mean? You see what Neville means when he says natural. So when you ask spirit or your imagination or God, whatever you want to call it, infinite intelligence, when you ask that question, what is my skill or talent that I can use in this moment? That's why I say if you look back on your life, when you look back at your life, you do not look back at your life to say, oh, this happened to me. I had the worst childhood ever. That's not why you look back at your life. You know why? Because the scripture also tells you that what the devil intended for harm, God used for good. So even though you may have had trauma, you learned a skill. You developed a skill that the Spirit needs you for, right? Because Spirit expresses itself through me via my voice. How does Spirit express itself through you? That is the question. You have it. And the next thing you know, if you follow where Spirit leads you, because as Joseph Murphy says, you are under compulsion when your subconscious wants you to do something. You have to do it. So if you get this desire to go here, somebody says, you know what? I need you for modeling. Go here. Next thing you know, you go there and you meet another model mate who is absolutely taken, not just with your beauty and your smartness, but your gentleness and the love in your eyes and the kindness in your heart. And next thing you know, you find your husband. Why? You did something naturally. You went under the inclination of your spirit. So always remember, yes, we want to get frustrated because we don't see it and we don't understand the big picture. But in the face of frustration, always stop. There is no sense in, because it's never going to work. What does the scripture tell you? Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit. You do not accomplish with force. You accomplish with spirit, with imagination. But you see, in the world that we live in, there's so much going on. There's so many words. There's so many images that we see that sometimes we can't even generate our own inner voice, right? To get the guidance we need. All you have to do is take a moment. Take a moment. What if you're a painter or an artist and you create great pieces and you get up one morning and something says, you get a flash in your mind of a piece you need to create. And you create it and you post it and somebody says, oh my God, I need to buy that. I must have it. That just triggered something in me and made me feel so at peace. I must have it. But it was natural for you to create it because that's what you do. You draw, you sketch, you paint, you put together crafts. What if you write children's books? My point to you is frustrations are part of our programming and they seem to be natural. But if you take a moment to ask the simple question, what is my skill or talent that I can use in this present moment? And just be still with that. And the answer will always come. How do you know the answer will come? Because the scripture tells you, ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you. That's what it says. And what does also the word say? My word shall not return unto me void. So if you ask, you get an answer. If you seek, you find what you're looking for. And if you knock, somebody says, hello, welcome. Do you see it? The word can never be contradicted. And the reason why the word can never be contradicted is because we know what law number 1 is. All is mind. And law number 2, correspondence. Whatever is in the mind has to show itself. So this is why you never have to chase. You never have to feel like, oh my God, I can't accomplish this. I've been trying for so long and now I'm just frustrated and I want to stop. Frustration means that you need to remember that it is not by might, it is not by power, but it is by your spirit, your imagination. That's what you do. Do what comes naturally to you. And if you don't know what comes naturally, stop for a minute and watch yourself, because there is something that you do naturally. There is. I guess the only natural thing for me to do was to find a job where I could talk all day. This is why all my jobs predominantly were reception, right? I always answered the phone. Always. Because that's what I like to do. It comes naturally. And when you know what you do naturally and you walk in it, now your imagination is not triggered by what's on the outside of you, but your imagination creates from within, stimulates you from within. That's the key here. And the reason, like I say all the time, Neville did what he did. Abdullah did what he did because of who he was. Joseph Murphy did what he did because he was a chemist, I believe. So his life was built upon the science and the process. And this is why when he teaches the art of manifestation, he gives you the process. Neville teaches from a place of, I guess I want to say, mysticism, because he spent a lot of time alone and in the Word and listening to his inner self. So he's going to teach from that place. So who are you? That is the question. When you know who you are, my father always used to say, man, know thyself. There's a reason why you must know yourself. I'm not going to tell you why you need to know yourself. You know why you need to know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, anybody can come along and tell you who you are, and you're going to believe them. And then you will behave accordingly to what they want you to be. And in the meantime, you stifle your own inner spirit, your own imagination. You must know who you are. Be encouraged. If you're going to reminisce, look back at what you have learned. Look back at the beauty. Look back at the skills. Because you know why? We've all had some shit in our lives. Look for the good things, because in it, you're going to find your skills. You're going to find your talents. And then when you find your skills and your talents, remember this. A man's gifts make room for him and brings him before great men. So your gifts and your talents pave the way for you. That's what they do. Because now when you know your gifts and talents, you become the cause. And now you know that you are the operant power. Be encouraged. Much love.